So official. All right. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. I know it's tough the week before our Thanksgiving break to focus because we're so close to the holiday break. But I wanted to welcome you. I'm very excited about this workshop, and we host it almost every year. And it's a great opportunity for you guys to learn about money basics and kind of just banking basics, and the differences between, savings and checking accounts and what's a credit union versus a bank and different little things like that can be kind of overwhelming or confusing. So I am so pleased to welcome Richard Santiago, who's the Senior Business Development Officer for Mission Federal Credit Union, which actually has been my bank since I was a teenager. So I am very happy to have Richard here, and so thankful that he could be here to talk to you guys about it, because you can hear it from us, but hearing it from a professional is different. So thank you, Richard, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. McKenna. I appreciate the opportunity. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys, all learning and exploring in a financial literacy world together. So I want to make this as much fun, as inviting and learning and educational as possible. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of go over a brief overview, and it's a little difficult for us to try to interject and ask questions. But if you do have a question, please feel free to write it in the chat, and then Ms. McKenna will interrupt or interject at any point in time, and we'll try to address your questions at the time appropriately, but we may just wait for the end. And if you guys do have anything that's one-off questions or more specifically directed towards your situation, I do have a slide in the PowerPoint that will give you my contact information. You can always reach out to me at a later time and we can discuss your one-off question. But with all of that said and done, let's go ahead and jump into the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the slide. And once it gets to there we are. Is everybody able to see that? Thumbs ups? All right, perfect. So this is traditionally a Mission Fed branch. It's a credit union. And for those that don't know, credit unions are member owned and most of the time operated, because we're all members of the credit union as well. But what we do is we provide financial literacy to our community. Because we're a nonprofit, we give back to the community with no additional out-of-pocket expenses on behalf of community partners or school districts, business partners, nonprofits, so on and so forth. One thing that separates the banks from the credit unions are banks are for profit, which means they are also trying to capitalize on revenue for their stake or shareholders. Where credit unions, because they are member owned, everything is a lot more affordable with lower rates of interest, and also and a smaller amount of products to choose from. So let's go ahead and get into why money skills are important. Well, a couple of key features that you really learn with money is how to be independent. And in ways of being independent is to be able to set a goal and to be able to obtain that goal. And if you can manage your money financially, it's a lot easier for you to obtain your financial goals in the long run. But along with that also means that you're going to also have to be living within your means. And living within your means creating a budget and staying within that budget. If you don't stay within your budget, you have a problem with managing your money, which can lead to stress, which can lead to other problems, and also cause more problems in other areas of your life. Preparing for your future is also a key component. And so what that does is helps you with making sure you have finances set aside for higher education, for college, whether that's saving up for a new car or a first apartment, anything of that nature. Now, on the other side, we have key responsibilities for creating awareness and creating a budget. Successful planning in a professional environment is going to be what's required for you guys to obtain and achieve financial success. So one way we do that is by including all of our family or friends, people of significant value in your life that's going to help you with your financial goals. So one question is, why do you need a checking account? What's the point of a checking account? Well, checking account is nothing more than a tool. just like you would have a hammer or a saw if you were a carpenter. A checking account actually is a purpose and a way for you to keep your money in a safe place where it's federally insured, which will also allow you to use to pay your bills, whether that's via debit card, whether that's via bill pay, or traditionally cash check money orders. So the checking account is going to be your primary focus for how you do your day-to-day living. Most of us carry a debit card, and in that debit card is an electronic access to your money. That way you have access to purchasing food for yourself. Maybe it's paying bills online that you need, or whether it's just having access at an ATM so you can get cash when you need rather than having to walk around with large amounts of cash in yourself. Another part about it is having a savings account. A savings account is kind of like another tool. Well, what you would have to protect yourself in the event of emergency, to plan for a rainy day, vacation. Many of us have one savings account, but me personally, I've got 8 savings accounts. 8 savings accounts, meaning I have a savings account for my shoes, my clothing, my emergency car expenses. I have savings accounts for vacation, for higher education, for my children. I have savings accounts for everything and anything that's not a dedicated bill. And what that means is, if you see the slide, there's all those little piggy banks. Each one of my piggy banks, my savings account, has a purpose. And when I separate that money, it keeps me very dedicated and on a strict budget, which helps me continue with my plans and desires. So in the very beginning, we said, set a goal. If my goal is to take a vacation, and let's say I want to go to the Caribbean, it's going to cost me $5,000. The big pig on the right is probably going to be my vacation account. And I need to make sure that I keep adding money into that. And electronically, I can keep a balance by checking my online statement. Once I've achieved my $5,000 in my savings account, then I can afford my vacation. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, go all the way down to the little side. Maybe that's my shoe budget. Maybe that's my shoe money. So what I do is I put a little bit of money in there, $5, $10, so I can accumulate enough money to buy the new pair of Jordans when those drop. The purpose of it is to set yourself a goal, title that tool so that way you know exactly what it's for, and then keep working on it until you've achieved that goal. Sometimes you won't be able to achieve the entire goal, but you'll be able to see progress. And there's not always an opportunity for me to put $100 away for, a rainy day account or for my savings. The reason for that is because life happens, but having the processes in place helps you with preparing for it. If you don't start somewhere, you'll never start at all. Many of us know what this is. This is the key to all of our successful financial dreams. This is our debit card, and our debit card consists of many different components. Across the front, you'll see a 16-digit card number. That 16-digit card number is not your account number, people. A lot of folks think that your account number is on the top of that card right there, and it's not. It's actually its own unique identifier, which ties that card to your checking account. If you lose that card, it does not mean you have to change your entire bank account number. So when you set up your jobs or direct deposits or any type of electronic payments out of your checking account using the routing and account number off the bottom of the check, it's that 9-digit number and then your account number, that's completely separate from your 16-digit debit card number. Now, the EMV chip is kind of a newer security feature placed in the card. It's another way of adding an additional level of security. And what they do that is that electronic chip, when you enter your card into the point of sale transmission, it will actually create an algorithm, a mathematical combination of numbers that sends it electronically to the bank that matches up. So it lets the bank know that the card holder presented the actual card at the point of sale. The reason why that's crucial nowadays is because crooks and thieves were finding ways to copy the magnetic strip on the back of the card so they could actually duplicate that on a swipe process. So when you went to 7-Eleven, you could swipe the card. Now, that doesn't mean that the EMV is completely unhackable. There are ways that crooks can still get around it. As you may know or have experienced yourself, If you enter in a EMV chip card into a machine that doesn't work right, or maybe the chip is scratched, all you have to do is enter it 3 times and then it'll allow you to swipe the card. So it's not completely foolproof, but it is an extra step and precautionary way to keep your account safe. The expiration date is basically just to let you know how long that card is good for. A lot of times the card numbers will change after 6, 8, 10 months. Some cards will go a year. So it's important to make sure you keep track of your card number and the expiration date. On the very bottom corner, if I can you see the cursor there? So the cursor will show you right there that the MasterCard logo is who sponsors the debit card. That means that all transactions are actually processed through the MasterCard program. Now, another side note, MasterCard, all of MasterCard digits right here will start with a number 5. All Visas start with a number 4. So as you start to become more accustomed with banking and different card numbers, you'll start to see that if somebody's reading off your card and they say, my card number is 4322, you automatically know that's a Visa card. If they say it's 5305, you automatically know it's a MasterCard. And if I'm not mistaken, American Express starts with a 3 and Discover, I'm not sure offhand because it's not very common anymore. The next part we're going to go into is keeping track of your expenses. Your expenses are very important to make sure you keep track of, because if you do not know how much money is in your account, when you overspend, it can cause a problem. It can cause a whole list of things to overdraw or bounce out of your account. And what that does is it causes additional fees to happen. Fees of the tune of $20 to $40, depending on your institution. Credit unions typically have lower fees because they're not for profit. Banks are for profit. They typically have higher fees. So what will happen is, if let's say you go to the campus bookstore for this case, and in the campus bookstore, you spent $58.20, but you forgot to record it. So now when you write a check to John Doe for $14.85, you did your math and you should have about $20, $30 left, but you didn't take into consideration the $58.20 you already wrote. You've now overdrafted your account. After you've had so many overdrafts, the institution can actually close your account for account abuse and put you on what's called check systems, which is a problem for you to try to secure finances anywhere. All right, Tali, quick question. Would you recommend to have more than one credit card? Now, do we mean credit card or do we mean a debit card? Because a credit card is bank's money that you're going to use and borrow and pay back at the end of the billing cycle. A debit card is your money. And a lot of times people have both. I have 2 debit cards, one with an institution like Mission Fed, another one with another institution that I use for when I travel outside of San Diego. The reason for that is so I have access to both my money at home and abroad should I ever go overseas or into another state where there's not going to be a Mission Fed location. The nice thing about that is I can transfer money from my Mission Fed to my other account, and that way I'll never without money in case I lose my Mission Fed debit card or in case my other institution card's not working. Both of them will talk. Now, credit cards, I'm sure we've all, parents or friends, relatives, maybe even yourself, have had multiple credit cards. Citibank, Chase, I'm trying to think, Capital One, we have Mission Fed cards. Each bank usually has their own credit cards, and that it's strictly up to you. I tend to look for cards that have lower interest rates. And the reason for that is if I keep a balance on there, it's going to save me money in the long run. You want to avoid big bank checking rates and their interest rates on their credit cards, because you're going to pay more for that money you borrow in the long run. Did that answer your question for you? So keeping your record of all of your transactions, this tends to be a very antiquated way of keeping track of your records, which was the old school check register. It's not very common anymore. We tend to use more like Mint or Plaid, Chime, or just your online banking, which helps us, the more techie younger generation nowadays, keep track of our purchases. So when I go and get an In-N-Out burger and I pay $10 for my entire meal, it automatically pops up on my online banking. Where 20 years ago, our parents and grandparents used to actually have to write these things down in a check register and match it up against their monthly statement at the end of the month. So old school way of doing things, completely common to still see them. It's just more predominantly now electronic based. Whatever works for you is going to still be the best way to do it. Some guidelines for managing your account. Save all of your receipts. Besides the fact of being able to return something after you decide you shouldn't have had it or shouldn't have bought it, maybe you found a better item, maybe it's defective, you want to keep your receipts to make sure that the amount that's on the transaction actually matches to your bank account, to your statement. The reason why is because there have been errors, whether it's on the bank side or on the merchant side, where a transaction may not match, and you are insured through FDIC or NCUA for any fraudulent or incorrect transaction amounts. So if you have a receipt that said you spent $17 at a store, but when you look in your statement, it shows 170, it could just be an error that you can dispute and have your money returned back to you. Record all of your transactions in a register. Again, kind of old, but if you're into writing everything down, please feel free to do so. If you're more on the hip age and using smartphones, go ahead and just use that and keep track of that online every single purchase you make. Avoid spending more than you have in your account. Again, it's super expensive for you to overdraft. And what will happen is you'll have a snowball effect. One thing will overdraft, which will cause you a fee, which will cause another overdraft and a fee and another overdraft. And just to give you a quick personal story, when I was about 18 years old, I didn't keep track of my money to the purpose and extent that I do today. And I went to McDonald's and I made a purchase for a Big Mac meal. And that Big Mac meal, this goes to show you how old I am, was only $6 and change for the combo, okay? That caused me to overdraft my account by 39 cents. That amount then turned into a $30 overdraft fee plus the additional charge of 39 cents. So I had to end up paying like $37 for this Big Mac for the combo, which still today's dollars is not nearly as expensive as what a real meal is anymore. But all because I didn't keep track of that 39 cents. I ended up paying an overdraft fee. Now, that overdraft fee had to be paid immediately. So I had to go into the bank, deposit additional funds, which I didn't have. I had to borrow money from my parents to put that in there. So not only was it embarrassing that one, I overdrafted my account, but two, I didn't even have the money to cover it. And then three, I had to borrow money from my dad to put the money back into the account so I could make it whole. Now, when my paycheck came a week later, I had to give my dad back his $40, make up the whole money that I was negative. And then I was out that money in my paycheck, which made the next 2 weeks of my life a little bit more challenging. So keeping track of what you have in your account and monitoring that daily is very, very, very important. People make fun of me because every morning I wake up, I check my bank statement. I go online, I look at the account. What's my balance? What did I buy last night? Is everything gone through my account? Is this what the real traditional amount of my money is? And then at the end of the night, I check it again. Did everything go through my account? Is there any fraud? Is there anything that I didn't make purchases on showing up in my account? Making sure I check my balances twice a day, sometimes even 3 times a day, like I do my social media, is kind of a fun way to keep track of my money and to see exactly where I'm at and on my pathway for saving and spending. Look over your monthly bank statements. It's a little older, again, with having online banking in our pockets all day and every day. You can check your bank account pretty much anytime, day or night you want. So you don't necessarily have to wait for your statement. If you see an inadequacy, it will show up right away on your online statement. And at that point, you can actually call in and say that that was a fraudulent charge or there's an error on your account and have it reviewed by the bank immediately. Building credit. This one's actually a really good topic because a lot of people don't realize how important credit is until it's too late. So why do we want to make sure we build credit? What's important for credit? Well, credit will actually help you, but it can really, really hurt you at the same time. And if you don't know how to use it and you don't monitor it correctly, it can get out of control really fast. So creating good credit habits and reducing yourself from making impulsive purchases will allow you to use your credit wisely. It also will be there when you need to, like make an emergency purchase. I've had plenty of times where my tire blew and I didn't have $400 to go put a new tire on my vehicle. And if you guys know, you can't just replace one tire, you have to replace 2 tires. So I would have to resort to credit cards from time to time. And that's common. You know, here in San Diego, it's expensive for a lifestyle to live. So if you're paying a $2,000 a month rent and you have living expenses, but you're only making $3,000 a month, it's tight. It's a tight way to live. So you will have to resort to credit at some point in time. So making sure that you budget yourself correctly and get started on the right credit path. How do you do that? Get yourself a secured loan. If you have no credit, or maybe you had credit and you made it a little rocky, a little couple hiccups here and there, you can also rebuild your credit by using a shared secured loan. What it does is it uses your money as collateral. They hold that money in a savings account and they issue out a loan. So for the purpose of this, let's say Richard goes into Mission Fed. Richard wants to get a secured loan. Richard puts $500 of his own money into an account that Mission Fed puts on pledge. Basically means that they cannot touch that money. Richard cannot touch that money. It's there. I can see it. I just don't have access to it. In return, Mission Fed gives Richard $500. That $500 now I can use and I can spend as I see fit. I go out, I make my purchases, I use the money however I decide, and I continue to make monthly payments. Instead of me paying back $40 a month, I pay $42. The $2 is considered an interest payment on that. At the end of 12 months, I would have fulfilled my entire purchase of the $500 plus the interest amount, and then the loan is satisfied. Now, what that's done is that's given that line of credit reporting on my credit report. So it'll show that I've made payments every single month on that amount of money. Once the loan is done and is satisfied in full, Mission Fed gives Richard back his $500. That's a shared secured loan, an easy and effective way to build your credit and not have to worry about whether or not you're going to qualify for a credit card or whether or not the bank is going to say you need a cosigner, which brings us into number 2, a cosigner. Cosigner is nothing more than a co-borrower. Somebody who says, yes, I will be there to verify that that payment will be made on time and to guarantee that there will be no problems in the repayment process. Now, if I needed a cosigner, let's just say I have my mom. My mom decides to cosign for me and I don't make the payment on time. The credit union will call my mom and say, Richard did not make his payment. Are you going to make this payment for him? And if they don't, if my mom doesn't make the payment, my vehicle could be repoed. The credit card could be sent to collections. Her credit could be sent to collections as well. Or we can have our accounts garnished, our checks garnished, levies put on our accounts. And so what happens is one person's mishaps or shortfalls, maybe I lost my job and I couldn't afford to pay it. Now it's going to default to that cosigner, which is why it's very important that you monitor your credit, monitor your spending, and make sure if you cosign for anybody, you can afford to pay for that. If they cannot, if they default, it's your responsibility. Becoming an authorized user. This is a little different than a cosigner because what happens is you will actually be able to use a credit card, but not be responsible to pay it back. So let's use the example of a gas card. Some of our parents may have an account with Chevron. And what they'll do is they'll say, now that you're driving, I'm going to get you a gas card. But of course, you don't have a job. You're a student. You're going to school still. So maybe you can't afford to pay $5 to $25 a gallon for gas as it is right now. They will actually pay the bill, but you will have a credit card for Chevron that'll have your name on it, and you can use that to pay for gas. That's now how you're an authorized user. It will report to your credit, but it reports in a different way. You get credit for them making the payments and reporting it, but it doesn't give you the full amount of credit as if you were to make the payments on your own and have it in your own name. One of my favorites right now is Experian Boost. What that is it keeps track of like your Netflix, also things like your Disney Plus or ESPN Plus subscriptions that come right through your bank account that never really hit your credit, but you're making payments on those things monthly, which is credit, right? You should be getting credit for making the payments. So if you go on to Experian Boost, you can create an account that shows I'm making payments to Netflix for $17 a month, and that comes out electronically out of my bank account each month. The one caveat is you have to be at least 18 to have Experian Boost, because prior to 18, your age is not recording the transactions on your credit. So all of this talk about credit. Well, what is credit? Who is credit and why? So credit, FICO, is actually an acronym for the Fair Isaac Corporation that was created in the late 80s. And what that does is that's three of these bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, which came up with a mathematical algorithm to determine what your FICO score is. And your FICO score is nothing more than whether or not you're credit worthy. Credit worthy of should you be lent money. Now on this slide, you'll see there is a scale starting off at the high point, 850, which some of the bureaus, I believe it's Experian, has actually expanded up to 900 on the FICO score and dropping it down at as low as 300. What that does is it tells a financial institution whether or not you are credit worthy. Should I lend that person money if they're in the, let's say, 450 credit FICO score range? Probably not, because the chances are I'm not going to get my money back. Now, if that same person who has a credit score of 780 wants to borrow the money, chances are they're going to pay me back. So I am willing to give them money at a lower interest rate. The whole point is to keep the credit score higher so your interest rates are lower. It's basically lower loans back to you, which means your money can go farther. If I wanted to go buy a vehicle and it's $20,000, but the bank tells me my interest rate's 20%, that means that I really can't afford a monthly payment of $500-600 a month. But if I have a good credit and it's a $20,000 car and I get a 3% rate, then my monthly payment could be $300 a month. And that's a little bit more affordable given today's circumstances. So the reason you want to make sure you keep your credit in good standing is because all you're doing is paying money to borrow money from a financial institution, and it can end up costing you more money in the long run. There's the example of our auto loan, $20,000 at 3.99. Interest is $2,094.40 over that 5-year loan. So it's only costing you about $2,100 to borrow $20,000. Now, if you have bad credit, it's going to be $12,000 in interest over that 5 years. Yes, I know a lot of people say, do you have to go the full 5 years? What if I pay it off early? Won't I save some money? Won't it be cheaper? Right. But if you still look over that 5 years, over 60 months, $12,000 is still a big chunk of change. It's almost like you're buying the same car twice. So it's very, very important that you manage your money and your credit in the right way. Otherwise, you can find yourself paying 4 or 5 times more in interest than what you should be. So to summarize credit is establish yourself early, use it wisely, make sure you pay your bills on time. No bill creditors care if you moved and you didn't get the bill, especially in today's day and age where everything's electronic. You can sign up for electronic statements, email notifications. You want to make sure that they know that you are paying your bills on time because you're responsible. If you do have to use your credit, try not to max your credit cards out. Anything over a 30% balance actually does damage to your card. So if that means if you have $1,000 limit on your card, you shouldn't carry more than a $300 balance at any point in time. Well, what's the point of having $1,000 limit if I'm not supposed to use it then, Richard? Well, what it does is it actually allows you to make purchases for emergencies or for big ticket items. Just know that it will actually bring your score down a little bit. And if your intention is to maximize your score, you want to keep right underneath that 30% utilization number. Simple one, only use your credit cards if you can afford to pay it back. The credit card is really not your money. It's the bank's money. And so the bank is lending you money. I don't think anybody in this room or in this class would say they would lend me $100 if they knew I wasn't going to pay it back. And if I couldn't pay it back, I don't think I would borrow money because that's kind of bad character on me. It's embarrassing. Just go into some place and say, I can't pay you. I don't have the money and I'm not going to be able to pay you back. So the key of that is only borrow what you can afford to pay back, only use what you can afford to pay back on a monthly basis, and do not max out your credit cards. On the very bottom, there is a very key point. It's the annualcreditreport.com. You want to make sure you check your credit at least once a year for any type of activities that will show up, for whether that's fraudulent, whether it's a mismatch, whether it's an error on your credit. Any accounts that are not yours, you can also dispute and ask for more information on, but get in the habit of at least checking your credit once a year, because something can actually tack onto your credit and not know about it until you're ready to go buy a car or a house. And then next thing you know, you're getting declined because you have bad credit and you never even knew that your identity was stolen 2 years ago, or somebody's using your social by accident because they inverted 2 digits. So make sure you check it, look at all the accounts. If it doesn't look right, if it doesn't look like it's yours, go ahead and dispute that. So back to your budget. Now that we've talked about your credit and how to align everything, now we're going to talk about why it's important to have that. So where do you get your monthly income? A lot of people, payroll. From a paycheck. You have a job, you get paid. Or maybe you're in school, so you get a weekly allowance. Maybe it's gifts. Grandparents, relatives give you checks for different reasons. This one, actually, I can say I've done it, and it's recycling. You can get quite a bit of money from recycling. Cans, metal, anything that you can actually get your hands on, you can actually take in and recycle. And then the all-time favorite one, federal aid grants. So all of those are ways that you can actually show income, and that income needs to be reported on your bank statement and your budget. And the reason why would I want to report it? Well, because when you put money into your account, especially at a credit union, it's building a relationship. And what that relationship does is it shows the institution, I have $1,000 in my account and I'm only using $100 or $200 of it each time. So I'm keeping a balance. Now, when I go and I ask, can I open up a credit card, or I want to get an auto loan, they are actually going to look at your account balance and say, you know what, you've had a very good relationship. Your accounts are in good standing. You show that you're not relying on money to live day to day. There's a likelihood that you can get approved, where if you didn't carry a good balance in your account, or you constantly overdrew your account, you would get declined because you have bad money management skills. And if you can't manage your own money, how are you going to manage somebody else's money? So it's very, very important to make sure you stay within your means and your monthly budget. Following your budget. I shared with you guys a couple of different ways earlier with online tools for Mint or Chime, Plaid, things of that nature. But I'll tell you, I still go back to the good old fashioned notes in my iPhone. I just open the Notes app. I write down all of my bills. This is how much it costs for my gas this month. This is what my grocery bill is. This is how much my internet bill is. And then I tally them all up and I break that down into payments. So if my internet is due at the beginning of the month, I separate that to my first paycheck. That's going to probably be with my rent payment or with my mortgage payment. Then I go into my auto loan payments and my insurance, break it all down. I do all of that on the notes on my phone. And the reason for that is because I can actually change that on the fly anywhere I go. So if I get a new bill, I can actually pull out my phone and say, my credit card bill just went from $25 to $45. So I can adjust that right there and look at my budget and see if I'm still within budget. If not, maybe I need to scale back in one way or another. And I know that right away. A lot of times people resort to a book or a notepad at home, and you tend to get complacent and not keep track of those things and just go, I'll do it later. Or, oh, you know what? I'll remember. It's easy to do it right there in your phone because you have it with you at all times. Otherwise, download an app, Mint, tools, whatever you feel comfortable with. The idea is just to do something that you know you can stay with, keep track of, and use regularly. So when you're creating a budget, what do you create? Where do you start? Why should I try to figure out a budget if I don't even know what a budget looks like? These are going to be some of the common spending areas. Your fixed expenses are your essentials, the things you have to have in life to live: mortgage, rent, transportation, cars or bus passes, groceries. That's going to be 50% of your income. So if we did this in a very small scale right now, just for comparison purposes, let's just say I make $1,000 a month. $500 of that money right out of the gate should be set aside for my transportation and or rent and groceries. Now, if you're making $1,000 a month, chances are you're living with family, because I don't know anywhere in San Diego you can rent a 1-bedroom apartment for $1,000 or less. So chances are you're going to be paying rent in a small amount, maybe renting a room from somebody for a couple $100s, or maybe it's just living for free. Now, if that is your case, I would say still follow this budget: $500 a month for your fixed expenses. Then $300 of that is going to be for your flexible stuff, your clothing, your activities, your gift funds. That means you have birthdays coming up for somebody, your best friend's turning 21, you guys want to go out. That's going to come out of your flexible spending account, not your fixed expenses or a savings account. You want to make sure you budget that money aside. Now, just because you have $300 a month does not mean you go out and spend $300 a month on clothes every single month. You can if you want, but you'll see your budget will actually start to find a way to dwindle and it'll fall apart. Now, the most important part, and you don't have to start with 20%, but it's easy to, it's more understandable and easy for you to put an additional 20% of your check away. Now, 20% of $1,000 is only $200. So $200 right off the jump is going to go right into your savings account. That's going to be for your emergencies, for auto loans, for credit cards, anything that you would have above and beyond. Could also be your savings accounts for your travels. Maybe it's retirement, anything like that. Now, when you start off at $1,000, $200 a month is nothing. When you start off at $5,000 a month, 20% of that starts to become greater. Now, once you've built in these habits, as your money in income increases, you will start to have those same healthy habits that will allow you to continue with saving 20% on a monthly basis. That concept right there, guys, is not just something that Mission Fed has come up with, not something that I have come up with. This is Dave Ramsey's. This is Warren Buffett. This is pretty much any financial successful person has come out and said, start by paying yourself 20% right off the top. While you have no budget, while you have no expenses, the easiest way to do is to pay yourself 20%. Once you've done that, you've become accustomed to doing it. So it makes it easier and easier and easier. But that's not the only thing. You want to make sure that you create a budget that involves your family. It stays disciplined and sticking with your plan. It's not going to help you if you plan on saving every dollar and dime of your money, but you want to live off of your spouse, your partner, or a friend, your roommates. I don't want to buy groceries because I'm saving up my money to go on vacation, but I'm going to eat all my roommates' food. That's not going to work. You want to make sure you stick in a budget that is going to be applicable to your lifestyle, but then also to build in rewards. So building rewards means I like Starbucks. I'd like to drink Starbucks all day, every day. But at $5 a cup, I can't afford to have 3 or 4 Starbucks. So if I scale myself down, and let's say I have 1 Starbucks a day, and I go to 7-Eleven for the other one. Now I'm not spending $15 a day in Starbucks. I'm only spending one $5 cup in the morning and like a $2 cup in the afternoon. What that's doing is giving me a total of $7 versus that $15, $20 cup of coffee throughout the entire day. That money put aside. You can also go completely the opposite direction and say, I'm going to brew my own coffee at home every day and only get Starbucks on Sundays because that's the day I want to treat myself. Now, that's a great way to build a reward system into your budget because you actually have something you're striving for. It's actually been known and proven that if you try to cold turkey something, I'm not going to buy no more, I'm done, I can't do it, that you're going to find yourself depressed, angry, and upset, missing whatever you took out of your lifestyle, and fall. You're going to fall flat on your face and the budget's not going to work. And then you're going to find yourself being very upset because this whole thing that Richard at Mission Fed taught me didn't work for me because it's stupid and it's not going to work. That's when you want to go back and look and say, am I building in the proper rewards? Is my goal set realistically? And what am I doing to achieve that goal? How am I planning it? And is there any type of adjustment? Finally, it's going to be find out, is this really a need or do I want it? Do I really need to buy the new Jordan ones or do I just want them? And what does that mean? Does me buying this pair of shoes put off a dream or a goal or a decision that I want down the road? Or is it something that I can manage and say, I've got $300 right now. 150 is going to go towards these shoes and 150 I'm going to put towards my vacation account. And then next month, maybe I put 300 towards my vacation account. It's give and take. You have to be able to justify whether or not it's a need or a want. And then my all-time favorite is small change adds up over time. And that's kind of twofold. Many of us go through our day-to-day activities, couple pocket change here. There's 20 cents back from your lunch. Here's 40 cents back from the store. Now you're walking around with 60 cents in your pocket. You get home, you don't even know, it ends up in the couch, on the dresser. But if you start putting that money in a jar and that money starts to add up over time, that will actually could be $100 by the end of the month. Could be more depending on how much coin you have. But the point of the matter is too, that a small change in your behavior can add up to be a big change in the long run. The same way that that small change can actually end up to be big dollars at the end of the year. So just remember, little things that you do throughout the day can make a big impact to you later on. Kind of like the philosophy of, would you rather have $1,000 now or 1 penny every day compounding for the next 30 days? It's kind of a tricky situation, but if you realize the compounding, you'll end up with more money at the end of the 30 days than an immediate gratification. So as promised, I have all the information here for you guys to reach out to me for questions, comments, concerns. If you have any kind of one-off situations that you wanted to ask me, talk to me about, say you wanted to learn more about becoming a Mission Fed member, please feel free to write down my information. That phone number there is my office line. It reads right to my cell phone, but also too can be reached out via email anytime, day or night. Any questions in the room before we go any further? All right. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for the time. I'm going to stop the sharing of the screen. And then if you want to stop the recording there, Jessica.